Imagine a world cloaked in darkness and biting cold. There are no lighters in your pocket, no matches in a box, no gas stoves to click on. This was the reality for our ancient relatives, the Neanderthals. For them, survival was a daily battle fought against the elements, and fire was their greatest weapon and most trusted ally. It wasn't a luxury for a cozy evening. It was the very heart of their existence. Fire meant the difference between a warm, cooked meal and a gnawing, empty stomach. It provided a shield against the terrifying predators that stalked the prehistoric night, their eyes gleaming just beyond the circle of light. Without fire, life would have been brutally short and unimaginably hard. Today, we take warmth and light for granted. We flip a switch and a room is instantly illuminated. We turn a dial and a flame leaps to life, ready to cook our food. But for the Neanderthals, creating fire was a deliberate and masterful skill. It was an art form passed down through generations, a sacred piece of knowledge that held the key to their survival in a harsh and unforgiving landscape. They couldn't simply rub two sticks together and hope for the best. That method is incredibly difficult and often unreliable, especially in the damp, cold climates they often inhabited. They needed something more dependable, a method that would work when they needed it most. Their solution was ingenious, born from a deep understanding of the world around them. They learned to read the landscape, to see the potential hidden within the stones at their feet. They didn't rely on luck. They relied on chemistry and physics, even if they didn't have the words for it. They discovered a combination of minerals that could produce a shower of hot sparks on command. This wasn't some desperate last-ditch effort. It was a calculated, practiced technique that gave them mastery over one of nature's most powerful forces. It allowed them to thrive, to expand into new territories, and to endure the brutal ice ages. Understanding their methods isn't just a history lesson. It's a window into the raw, unfiltered essence of survival. It shows us what human ingenuity is capable of, even with the most basic tools. When you're out in the wild and your modern gear fails, these ancient skills can save your life. The principles are the same today as they were 50,000 years ago. It's about knowing your materials, practicing your technique, and respecting the power you are trying to create. This knowledge connects us to our ancestors and reminds us that deep down, we all have that same spark of survival instinct waiting to be ignited. The Neanderthal fire-making kit was simple, but incredibly effective. It didn't contain a bundle of sticks for friction fire, a method that is often romanticized but is highly dependent on perfect conditions and immense physical effort. Instead, their primary tools were two special types of rock, flint, and pyrite. Flint is a hard, sedimentary rock that can be shaped to have an incredibly sharp edge. Neanderthals were masters of working with flint, using it to create spear points, knives, and scrapers. This same skill made it the perfect striker for creating a spark. A good piece of flint feels heavy and solid in your hand, with a waxy texture and a sharp, clean edge. The second crucial component was pyrite, often known as fool's gold. This iron sulfide mineral is a brassy, metallic-looking rock that can be found in various geological formations. When you hold a chunk of pyrite, it has a surprising heft and a crystalline structure that glitters in the light. It's much softer than flint. This difference in hardness is the secret to its fire-starting magic. Neanderthals would have sought out these specific stones, recognizing their unique properties. They wouldn't just pick up any two rocks. They were prospectors, searching for the perfect combination that would deliver a reliable spark every single time. Why these two materials? It comes down to pure physics. When a hard material like flint strikes a softer, iron-rich material like pyrite, something amazing happens. The sharp edge of the flint acts like a tiny chisel, scraping off minuscule particles of iron from the pyrite's surface. The force and friction of this strike are so intense that they heat these tiny iron shavings to an incredibly high temperature, over 400 degrees Celsius or about 800 degrees Fahrenheit. These superheated particles of iron then react with the oxygen in the air, causing them to burst into brilliant glowing sparks. It's a miniature explosion, a controlled and directed burst of energy. This method was far superior to rubbing sticks together for a few key reasons. Firstly, it requires much less energy. A few sharp, well-aimed strikes are all it takes to produce a shower of sparks. Secondly, it's far more resilient to weather conditions. Trying to generate friction with damp wood is nearly impossible. But flint and pyrite can create sparks even when they're cold or slightly damp, as long as you can wipe them dry. This reliability was paramount. In a life-or-death situation, you can't afford to have your fire-starting method fail. The flint and pyrite technique was the Neanderthals' all-weather go-to solution for harnessing the power of fire. Creating a spark with flint and pyrite is a technique that requires precision, not just brute force. It's a dance of angles and energy. A Neanderthal would hold the pyrite firmly in one hand, often wrapping it in a piece of leather to protect their knuckles. The pyrite serves as the anvil, the source of the spark. The flint, held in the other hand, is the hammer. The key is not to bash the two rocks together randomly. Instead, you want to deliver a sharp, glancing blow, striking the flint down against the pyrite at a shallow angle, almost as if you were trying to shave a thin layer off the pyrite's surface. The motion is a quick, decisive flick of the wrist. You bring the flint down with speed and confidence, and the goal is to direct the resulting sparks downwards, right where you need them to land. A successful strike produces a small but mighty shower of bright, hot sparks. These aren't like the fleeting sparks you see from a campfire. They are molten flecks of iron burning intensely for a crucial second or two. This is the moment of creation, the birth of potential fire. A skilled firemaker could consistently produce a cluster of these sparks with just a few strikes, aiming them with remarkable accuracy. This technique offered a massive advantage in the varied terrains the Neanderthals called home. From windswept plains to damp forested valleys and chilly caves, this method proved its worth time and again. Unlike friction fire, which demands bone-dry wood of specific types, flint and pyrite are geological resources. Once you find a good source, you have a reliable tool that isn't dependent on the season or recent rainfall. A Neanderthal could carry their fire kit with them, a trusty piece of flint and a chunk of pyrite, knowing they possessed the ability to make fire wherever their journey took them. This portability and dependability liberated them from being tied to a single location. For anyone wanting to try this today, the principles remain the same. You can find flint or a similar hard rock called chert in many parts of the world. High-carbon steel, like the back of a carbon steel knife, can be used as a modern substitute for the flint striker. Iron pyrite can be purchased online or found in certain geological areas. When you practice, focus on the angle and the speed. It's not about hitting it as hard as you can. It's about a clean shaving motion. Place your tinder directly beneath where you plan to strike and let the sparks fall right into it. It takes practice, but the feeling of creating a spark this way is primal and deeply satisfying. A shower of hot sparks is useless without the right material to catch them. This is where tinder comes in, and for Neanderthals, preparing the tinder bundle was just as important as striking the spark itself. Tinder is not just any dry material. It must be exceptionally fine, fluffy, and bone-dry, capable of catching a fleeting low-temperature spark and holding it as a glowing ember. The sparks from pyrite are hot, but they are also tiny and short-lived. Your tinder needs to be a perfect nursery for this newborn heat. Neanderthals were experts at identifying and processing the best natural materials for this purpose. One of their most prized tinder materials was a type of fungus that grows on trees, particularly birch and beech. We know these today as tinder fungus or Fomes frumentarius. The true magic lies in the soft, felt-like inner layer of the fungus, known as amadou. To prepare it, Neanderthals would have sliced the fungus open and carefully scraped out this spongy material. They would then pound it, stretch it, and possibly even treat it with something like urine. The nitrates would help it smolder even better, to make it incredibly receptive to a spark. A well-prepared piece of amadou can catch a spark and begin to glow instantly without bursting into flame. Beyond amadou, they had a whole menu of tinder options depending on their location and the season. The fluffy seed down from plants like cattails or bulrushes or even milkweed makes for excellent flash tinder, catching a spark in a brilliant flash. Dry grass, shredded into a fine, fibrous mass, could also be used to form the core of a tinder bundle. The inner bark of trees like cedar or juniper could be scraped off and rubbed between the hands until it became a soft, woolly ball. The key was always processing. They didn't just grab a handful of grass. They painstakingly broke it down until it had the maximum surface area to catch that precious heat. You can apply these exact same principles today. When you're in the wild, look for these materials. Find a tinder fungus on a birch tree and learn how to process it into amadou. Gather the fluff from cattail heads in the autumn, but be sure to keep it in a waterproof container. Shred the inner bark of a dead, dry cedar branch until it feels like cotton. A fantastic modern tinder you can carry is char cloth, a piece of 100% cotton fabric that has been cooked in a sealed tin until it turns black. Like amadou, char cloth will catch a spark and glow instantly, making it one of the most reliable tinders you can have in your survival kit. Preparation is everything. Catching a spark is a moment of triumph, but the job is far from over. What you have is not a fire. It's a tiny, fragile ember, a glowing speck of heat nestled in your tinder. This is perhaps the most delicate stage of the entire process. The goal is to nurture this ember, to feed it with oxygen and more fuel until it grows strong enough to burst into flame. A Neanderthal would have handled this with the care of a surgeon. Holding the tinder bundle gently in cupped hands, they would begin to blow on the glowing spot. This is a fine art. Blow too hard and you can blow the ember out. Blow too softly and it will suffocate and die. The breath must be long, slow and steady. As you blow, you'll see the ember brighten from a dull red to a brilliant glowing orange. You'll see smoke begin to curl and thicken. This is a good sign. It means the ember is consuming the fine tinder around it and growing in size and intensity. You need to rotate the tinder bundle slightly, allowing the ember to find new fuel. The bundle itself acts as an insulator, trapping the heat and concentrating it. It's a race against time to grow the ember before the initial tinder is consumed. It requires patience, focus, and a feel for the fire's needs. As the smoke becomes thick and white and the heat radiating from the tinder bundle intensifies, you know you are close. This is the moment to introduce the bundle to a larger nest of kindling. This kindling should be prepared in advance. A loose ball of finely split pencil-lead-thin twigs, dry grass or birch bark shavings. You don't just drop the ember in, you carefully place the smouldering tinder bundle into the heart of this larger nest, continuing to blow gently to encourage the heat to transfer. The smoke will become even thicker, and you might see the first flicker of a tiny, dancing flame. Once the first flame appears, you must act quickly but carefully. You feed it the smallest, driest twigs you have, adding them one by one without smothering the young fire. Think of it as building a tiny tipi of wood over the flame, allowing plenty of air to circulate. As these small twigs catch, you can gradually introduce slightly larger pieces of kindling, then larger sticks, and finally your main firewood. This entire process, from a single spark to a self-sustaining fire, is a masterclass in patience and understanding the delicate balance of fuel, oxygen and heat. It's a magical transformation that never gets old. For Neanderthals, starting a fire from scratch, even with a reliable method, still took time and energy. In a world where every calorie counted, it was far more efficient to keep an existing fire going than to make a new one every day. This led to another crucial survival skill: fire transport. Instead of letting their precious fire die out when they moved camp, they developed ingenious ways to carry a live ember with them. This portable flame ensured they could have a fire up and running within minutes of arriving at a new location, providing instant warmth, safety, and a means to cook. One of the most effective methods for carrying an ember was to use a large, slow-burning fungus. Like the same tinder fungus, Fomes fomentarius, they used to catch sparks. Once a piece of this fungus was lit, it wouldn't burst into flame, but would smolder for hours, much like a charcoal briquette. A Neanderthal could place a smoldering piece of this fungus inside a container, perhaps a large seashell or a hollowed-out piece of wood lined with damp moss to prevent it from burning through. This would act as a slow-burning fuse, a portable ember that could be revived with a little tinder and a few breaths hours later. Another technique involved using a fire roll or a slow match. This could be made from a tightly rolled strip of bark, like paper birch, that was partially lit on one end. The bark would smolder very slowly, and by controlling the airflow to it, a Neanderthal could keep it going for a considerable amount of time. They might wrap it in green leaves to protect it and carry it carefully on their journey. When they needed to restart the fire, they would simply expose the glowing end to their tinder bundle and blow it back to life. This was the prehistoric equivalent of carrying a lit cigarette to light the next one. This mindset of fire maintenance, not just fire creation, is a powerful survival lesson. It teaches efficiency and foresight. In a long-term survival situation, you should always try to preserve your fire. At night, bank your fire by piling ash over the hot coals. This insulates them and cuts off oxygen, causing them to smolder slowly until morning. In the morning, you can simply scrape away the ash, add new tinder, and blow the coals back into flame. If you have to move, consider creating a slow match or using a metal tin to carry live coals wrapped in ash and moss. Don't work harder than you have to. Think like a Neanderthal, preserve your energy and your resources. The fire-making techniques of the Neanderthals are more than just a fascinating piece of history. They are a practical and powerful testament to human ingenuity and a vital skill set for any modern survivor, hiker, or outdoor enthusiast. In an age where we are so dependent on technology, learning these ancient methods reconnects us to the natural world and to a fundamental part of our own human story. It builds confidence and self-reliance. Knowing that you can create fire with nothing more than what you find on the ground is an incredibly empowering feeling. It strips survival down to its raw, essential elements. The flint and pyrite method, or its modern equivalent, using a carbon steel knife and a piece of chert or flint, is a skill worth mastering. It's more reliable than friction fire in many climates, and less prone to failure than a wet lighter or empty matchbox. I encourage everyone to build their own primitive fire kit. Find the right rocks, process some natural tinder like amadou or cattail down, and practice. Practice in your backyard, practice in good weather, and practice in bad weather. Learn what a good spark feels like. Master the art of blowing an ember into flame. Failure is part of the process. Every failed attempt teaches you something new. Beyond the practical application, this knowledge fosters a deeper appreciation for our ancestors. It forces you to see the world through their eyes, to look at a rock and see a tool, to look at a fungus and see a fuel source, to see a landscape not as scenery, but as a collection of resources. It reminds us that for thousands of years, humans survived not with complex gadgets, but with keen observation, deep knowledge of their environment, and skills honed over countless generations. They were the ultimate survivors, and their legacy is written in the very stones they used to conquer the cold and the dark. So, the next time you are out in the wild, take a moment, look around you. The tools for survival are often right at your feet. The knowledge of how to use them is a bridge that connects us directly to our most resilient ancestors. Learning to make fire like a Neanderthal isn't just about survival. It's about connecting with that primal, unbreakable spirit that lives within all of us. It's about understanding that with the right knowledge and a bit of determination, you can overcome almost any challenge nature throws at you. Now get out there and give it a go.